You are listening to the Win Streaks preview and prediction of all 32 NFL teams for the upcoming 2017 season. Over the next few weeks, I will be covering all 32 teams, so please subscribe on YouTube or the podcast platform you're listening on so you don't miss an episode. My name is Corey Foister. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Corey Foister. Follow the show on social media. That is Twitter at Winstreak News, Facebook.com/TheWinstreak, TheWinstreak.com. Leave a review and subscribe on the podcast platform you're listening on. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. That is Soaring Jets Production. If you're listening on YouTube right now, drop me a comment and let me know what you think the Detroit Lions are going to do this year when it's all said and done. Contact us at soaringjetsproductions@gmail.com or go to thewinstreak.com/contact. Join our fantasy football league. You can find out more information about joining our fantasy football league via Facebook or thewinstreak.com. Top 10 Super Bowl matchup we want to see is now live. And please check out on iTunes, Stitcher, and most podcast platforms, The Win Streak. Me and my co-host, Brandon Myers, we do a weekly sports wrap-up show of all things football, baseball, basketball, and hockey, and a little bit of soccer also. So please check that out as well if you've never listened to anything from the Win Streak before. Today we are doing team number 18. We're on the back 16 of this NFL 2017 preview, and we are doing the Detroit Lions. This is Detroit's 88th season in the NFL. The fourth under head coach Jim Caldwell. The Lions general manager is Bob Quinn. Owner is Martha Ford. 2016 was the first time the Lions had an official cheerleading squad in over 40 years. The Lions finished 9-7 in 2016, good for second in the NFC North. Really a surprising finish by the Detroit Lions. Lions back in 2016 during the preseason were not hyped to go too far. Lions clinched a playoff spot for the first time since 2014. Lions finished regular season tied with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for the last NFC wildcard. They won the tiebreaker because of a better record against common opponents. The Lions lost wildcard playoff game to the Seattle Seahawks 6-26. That was a pretty ugly and brutal game, but most of the playoff games last season were really, really disappointing and downright awful. Lions' playoff losing streak is now at 9 games. Only the Cincinnati Bengals have a longer playoff victory drought. Lions only won 3 road games, 6 home games last season. Lions have the second longest NFL championship drought behind only the Arizona Cardinals, one of only 4 teams yet to play in a Super Bowl. The Jaguars, the Browns, and the Texans are the only others. One NFL championship in 1935, 1952, 1953, and 1957. So they've won 4 NFL championships, but never been to a Super Bowl. 4 conference championships, the last being 1957. 4 division championships, the last being 1993. I'm pretty sure that is the longest any team has, the longest drought for a division title in the NFL. They've never won the NFC North Division, 18 playoff appearances overall. Lions had 1 Pro Bowler in 2016, their kicker, Matt Prater. Forbes ranks the Lions as the 31st most valuable franchise in the NFL. And real quick, I just want to give a shout out to Chris B. from Southgate, Michigan. He is the biggest Detroit Lions fan in America, so all other Lions fans take note from him. My franchise what if the Lions won a game in 2008 and avoided the 0-16 embarrassment that came with becoming the first NFL team to pull off an unperfect season, I guess you could say. They went 0-16. That would have saved a lot of memes that I see on NFL memes about how, what the Lions did in 2008. That was a complete embarrassment. And what happened if Barry Sanders would have stayed around longer in Detroit, needed one more touchdown to have 100 career touchdowns, but still made it? Definitely a Hall of Famer. But it would have been interesting to see if Barry Sanders would have stayed around in Detroit for a little bit longer. Drop me a comment below. Let me know what your biggest franchise what if for the Detroit Lions is. 2017 outlook for the Detroit Lions. Lions are coming off a surprising playoff season, but there isn't much optimism for this team headed into this season. Detroit lost their last three games of the regular season back in 2016, backing into the playoffs by just a hair. Like I mentioned before, it came down to Tampa Bay and the Lions got that last wild card just for having a better record when it came to common opponents. So they almost lost out to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and of course the Seattle Seahawks would smash them in the playoffs. Biggest positive change going into the 2017 season for me. Detroit's defense struggled last season, so the Lions try to fix that on draft day. They drafted linebacker Gerard Davis, I should say, in the first round. Second round pick was spent on cornerback Tez Tabor. Fourth rounder on linebacker Jalen Reeves Mabin. Fifth rounder defensive back Jamal Agnew. All will provide depth on this squad. Infusion of young talent will help the Lions greatly on the defensive side of the ball. And I liked what the Detroit Lions did with the draft this year. They addressed not all of their problems. They still have a lot of problems on offense. And this brings me to my biggest negative change. The Lions lost starting left tackle Taylor Decker for at least the first months of the season, maybe more. Decker was the Lions' first round pick last year in the 2016 NFL draft. Now they have to depend on Castoff to protect Matthew Stafford's blind side. Offensive line in general is a problem. Looking at the head coach, Jim Caldwell will likely lose his job if the Lions season is pretty ugly. Like I mentioned, this is his fourth season as head coach of the Detroit Lions. This is the final season of Jim Caldwell's contract. General manager Bob Quinn, who is starting his second season as general manager of the Detroit Lions, might want to bring in his own guy. Usually most GMs fire off the head coach and get their own guy in there, so it's going to be interesting to see. But if Jim Caldwell gets the Detroit Lions back to the playoffs this year, I don't see how Bob Quinn is going, even if he wants his own guy, is going to be able to justify firing Jim Caldwell. Looking at the preseason, at Indianapolis to play the Colts, home for the Jets and the Patriots, and then at Bills to end the preseason. Looking at the Lions regular season game-by-game prediction, the Detroit Lions have 3 primetime games this season: at Giants on Monday Night Football, Steelers on Sunday Night Football, and at Packers on Monday Night Football. 3 pretty tough primetime games that the Lions are going to be a part of. Going by this, like always, worst and best scenarios here. September 10th, home for the Cardinals, opened up with the Cardinals. I say worst case, best case, you beat the Arizona Cardinals. I'm just not buying the Arizona Cardinals. You got Larry Fitzgerald, you got Carson Palmer. There's a lot of age there. I think the decline of last season was not just a fluke. I really just think the team is old and you need to start drafting newer people. I think the Detroit Lions are just a better team than the Arizona Cardinals also. September 18th, at New Jersey to play the New York Giants. Worst case scenario, you lose this game. Best case scenario, it's going to be tough, but I think you can beat the New York Giants. The New York Giants, I believe they are a playoff team. September 24th, you play another team that I believe is a playoff team, the defending NFC champion, the Atlanta Falcons. Worst case, best case, I say you lose this game, but you have a chance because you're playing the Falcons in Detroit. You're not having to go to Atlanta to play them. So you end September at worst 1-2, at best 2-1. October 1st at Minnesota to play the Minnesota Vikings. Worst case scenario, you lose this game. Best case scenario, I can see you winning this game. The Minnesota Vikings, I've done their preview already. The Minnesota Vikings are really hard to predict because they got two decent quarterbacks. It just depends, can either one of them stay healthy the whole year, and who is it going to be? And they just have a lot of questioning going forward without Adrian Peterson. How is the running game going to look without AP? October 15th at New Orleans to play the Saints. I say you win this because you have a quarterback who can get in a shootout with Drew Brees and pull off a victory. Because that's what you need. The Saints defense is awful. I'll definitely go with the Lions defense over the Saints defense, but that's not saying much because the Saints defense is just awful, and that's what's holding the Saints back from being a playoff team, in my opinion. Then you have a bye, and then October 29th, home for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's going to be a really tough game. I don't see how the Detroit Lions win against the Pittsburgh Steelers, especially with that offensive line. So I'm going to say that's a loss either way. You go into November, at worst you are 2-5, at best you are 5-2. November 6th at Green Bay to play the Packers. I don't see you winning that game. The Detroit Lions have struggled greatly against the Packers at Lambeau Field, and I just don't see that changing this season. November 12th, home for the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns, I believe, are going to be a way better team than last year. But, I mean, that's not saying much because they only won one game last year. But I think they're going to have probably the best season the Browns have had in 5-6 years. I think they can win 5, maybe 6 games. But I like the Detroit Lions in this game. I say you beat the Cleveland Browns. November 19th at Chicago to play the Bears. I see this as it's going to be a tough game, but I can actually see you beating the Chicago Bears as well. November 23rd, playing the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings at home, it's going to be a little bit tough, but you have a better chance. I have you guys winning at Minnesota, so I'll say you beat the Vikings again. Really depends what their quarterback situation is come late November. December 3rd at Ravens. Worst case scenario, you lose this game. Best case scenario, you win this game. It really depends. Is Flacco out for the whole season? Is he just out for 4 games? Nobody truly knows what's going on with the Ravens at the quarterback position. Also, that defense is so-so ever since losing all those big Hall of Famers to retirement. December 10th at Tampa Bay. I don't see how you beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers probably get revenge this year, and they make the playoffs, and the Detroit Lions miss the playoffs. I'm really big on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but then again, there's been a lot of teams that, it's these teams that are supposed to take the next step up, like the Jaguars, all these teams every year. It's like this is a year that they're going to be good, and you see teams fall apart. It happens every year, and Tampa Bay Buccaneers might be that team, so you could possibly win that if that happens to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but I expect the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to be really good at home. December 16th, against the Chicago Bears. I see you definitely beating the Chicago Bears in Detroit. I think the Bears are going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL this season. December 24th at Cincinnati. Worst case, you lose that game. Best case, you win that game. December 31st, home for the Packers. I think Aaron Rodgers, the last game of the season, he's going to be pushing for maybe a first round bye, maybe the division's on the line, maybe the Lions, but I just got to favor, I hate to say it, but the Green Bay Packers, because the Green Bay Packers, they always seem to, with Aaron Rodgers, to be able to pull it off. They always pull a rabbit out of the hat. at the last minute always to win that division. So I got to give the game sadly to the Packers in this case. Best case scenario for the Detroit Lions in 2017 is 10-6. Worst case scenario is 5-11. I mean, that's if everything goes wrong. That offensive line just folds on Matthew Stafford, and Stafford gets hurt. My final prediction is 8-8. It's a tough schedule. I mean, you got to go to New York to play the Giants. You got to play the Falcons right after that, the defending NFC champions. Vikings, who knows what they are? The Vikings in 2 games against the Vikings, and also the Panthers. Who knows if they're going to bounce back and be that 2015 team, which I could totally see, or if they're going to be a mixed bag so-so team like they were last season. You have the Steelers also as well. You got 2 games against the Packers. That's always hard. Who knows what the Ravens are going to be, if Flacco's going to be playing. The Bengals are going to be tough. The Browns are going to give you a little bit of a run for your money. And also the Buccaneers. I think the Buccaneers are going to be really good. So it's really a tough schedule having to play, the AFC North. It's going to be tough. Like I said, 8-8 I think is fair. I think you're better. I think you'll win against the Cardinals. You have a chance against either the Giants or the Falcons. I say you'll get the best of the Vikings, especially the Saints, the Browns, the Bears again. But other than that, it's a tough season. I just don't know. I don't think 8-8 is good enough to make a playoff spot. But maybe the Lions surprise me. But like I said, they lost their last 3 games and that playoff game, and they went 0-4. And it looked ugly. Like the Detroit Lions, the air was coming out of the ball. They were getting a little bit deflated. Hopefully, I don't know if I really buy momentum going into a season that's 8 months later, but they got to play way better than they did in those final 4 games. Once again, my name is Corey Foister. You can follow me on Instagram and on Twitter at Corey Foister. Follow the show on social media. That is Twitter at Winstreak News, Facebook.com/TheWinstreak, TheWinstreak.com. Leave a review and subscribe on the podcast platform you're listening on. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. That is Soaring Jets Productions. Contact us at soaringjetsproductions@gmail.com or thewinstreak.com/contact us, or contact, my bad. Join our fantasy football league. Top 10 Super Bowl matchups we want to see is now live. Once again, the Win Streak. Please check it out. Me and my co-host Brandon Myers, we do a weekly wrap-up show of all things football, baseball, hockey, soccer, and basketball. So check it out. We have a fun time doing this. Like I've mentioned before, I'm doing all 32 teams. This is team number 18 of 32. So please check out the other ones. They're on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube. They're all over the place. So please check them out. But until next time, keep winning, everybody.